The great debate, which enclosure is best. Now, you'll have a number of people telling you, which enclosure is best for your reptiles. Is it going to be tubs, wooden enclosure, PVC, glass, an aquarium, the Exoterra, and they all have their opinions on the reasons why they think it's the best. So as you guys know, in my collection, I house my animals in a number of different things, including everything just mentioned, tubs, aquariums, Exoterra, zoo meds, and then of course grow tents in PVC. And today I thought I'd go over, a little pros and cons list on which enclosure I think is the best for your reptile. Now the short version of this video is going to be, I don't think there is a best enclosure. Now, as I just said, I house them in multiple different things, and I think each and every enclosure that I put my animals in has its place and has, its advantages and its disadvantages. That being said, I'd like to go a little more in depth on, what exactly those advantages and disadvantages are. And of course, we're going to start out with probably the most popular choice, which is going to be an aquarium. So aquariums, they're pretty cheap and relatively easy to come by. You can really get these at any pet store. Now, I usually use my aquariums as just display enclosures for the animals that I either just don't handle whatsoever or that I rarely handle. These animals include things like the tokay geckos and then of course my frogs. I think these enclosures work fairly well, like I said, as display enclosures. Something like a bioactive planted vivarium works very well just because the complete front is just glass. You can see it on all sides. Just like my red-eyed tree frog tank, I love how this thing has come out. It's probably my favorite enclosure so far, just the way that it's grown. I'm just in love with it. Now, with that being said, I don't personally like aquariums too much, just for a few reasons. Number one, since we're talking about a display enclosure, usually when I'm misting and things like that, as you guys know, if you're just using your regular old water from the tap, the sink, you're gonna get hard spots. You can still see on like the sides and even on the front, you're gonna get these water marks. They are a pain to clean in these things. You have to take the entire top off and scrub down, and the thing I really hate about it the most is usually right here towards the bottom where the soil meets. I either just leave a couple of inches because it's just too much, or if I go too far down, I hit the dirt and then rub dirt all the way up the enclosure, so kind of a pain. Now, I'm also not too keen on using these things for if you have things like leopard gecko, baby bearded dragon, or some sort of smaller snake. The only way you're going to be able to get to them is opening the lid and going straight down. This is going to cause like a natural fear for them because they're thinking you're someone like birds swooping down, things like that, and it's going to cause them to be a little more scared and a little more stressed out than, say, if you're using like an Exoterra where you can open the front and grab them that way. I really recommend this enclosure if you're trying to do like a budget bioactive vivarium, although it does have some problems. If you go to Petco on their dollar per gallon sale, with the problems that it has, $29 for a 29-gallon tank, you can't really argue with it. Next up on the list, we're going to be talking about the front glass door openings, and that's going to be things like the Exoterra and Zoo Med enclosures. There are some new ones that are coming out, but these are the only two I have at this point. I'm going to like these a lot more than, say, your standard aquarium / terrarium. And that's, of course, for the main reason is going to be this right here. Now, with the front doors opening, it really fixes the two problems that I stated with the aquariums, and that's going to be you're able to open the door like so. So if you're using this as a display enclosure like I am with my croc sinks, I'm able to open it, just wipe down the glass real quick, and then put it in. And even when misting, the doors are open, so a lot of water is not getting on the front glass. Another reason is the substrate is kind of separated from the doors, so that other problem I was saying about the substrate hitting when I'm cleaning is also gone. Another reason why I enjoy the Exoterras a little bit more is just ease of handling if you're trying to get your pet out, because it's really just this easy. Open the glass and this went a lot slower than I thought. I thought he was just right behind the leaves. And boom, you got your little guy straight out. As far as the Zoo Med and Exoterra tanks go, I definitely recommend them if you have a little bit more of a budget than versus buying an aquarium. I think they work out a little bit better in the long run if you're just keeping them as a smaller pet or making a bioactive vivarium with one. I talked a little bit about the pros for this enclosure. Now let's get into the cons. Now, the tops are all open screen still, so if you're trying to keep more of a tropical species like the frogs or even crested geckos and things like that, you're going to want to customize the top a little bit, sealing it with either the methods, I've used previously, either, you know, duct tape, plastic wrap, and then, or like metal tape, things like this to make sure that that humidity is going to stay in a little better, because with just the open screen, it's a little hard to regulate the humidity. My next con with the Zuma and Exo Terra tanks are going to be size. Now, I get it, you know, not a bunch of people are going to have animals like me, like the big red-tailed boas, monitors, tegus, things like that, you know, so you really don't need more than, I think their biggest size is the 36 by 18 by 36, so 3 by 18 by 3 foot. But, you know, in the grand scheme of things, it's not very big. I understand the general population pretty much adheres to those sizes, but it limits me personally in my collection. Next up, we're talking about the dreaded tubs. You know, people hate tubs. I don't really understand why too much. You know, I'm guessing it's stemming from, you know, if you're not spending the $180 to $250 in the enclosure, you know, you're not doing your animal right. But at the end of the day, you know, you're gonna hear me say this a few times in the video. A box is a box. That's what we're keeping our reptiles in. We're keeping them in boxes, whether it be made out of glass, melamine, PVC, wood, plastic, and things like that. You know, it's still a box. Getting that out of the way, let's talk about the pros and cons. Now, pros with bins. Obviously, they're the most cost efficient. I spend on average $13 for the big breeder bins that I keep mine in. They're very easy to set up. I just have the screen top with tape, and I'm pretty much done. Then add soil and everything like you would with any other enclosure. Tubs are actually really good at holding humidity. They work a lot better than, saying, what I was having some problems with the aquarium and Exo Terra enclosures. You're having to, you know, seal them, seal the open screen. This, it works a lot better. With using bins, I've noticed that I've had to mist a lot less, and the humidity's been able to maintain a lot better in these versus, like I said, the glass enclosures. Other quick pros that are just useful to me and probably a few other of you guys is they're lightweight and stackable. I have a lot of crested geckos. I'm just, you know, getting started with just 1 year in breeding, and I think I have 15 or 16. So I'm gonna need to be able to stack them, especially the babies, and tubs are gonna work a lot better than those heavy glass enclosures. Now we talked a little bit about the pros, let's get into those cons. Number one, obviously, they're ugly. They're not very pretty. You can't really make a display enclosure out of it because it's this, you know, kind of fogged plastic and not really see-through glass. It does not look very nice. Reason number two, people are gonna yell at you. If you post this thing on any social media account, you know, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, things like that, you're gonna get a few comments of people saying you're a bad reptile keeper. Three, and the thing that limits me the most for using bins for any more of my animals is it's very limited with overhead heating. Now, although you can use under tank heaters like heat tape, heat panel, things like that, which will work great for tubs, it's a lot more difficult to use anything by like heat lamps, just because there's really no temperature gradient with tubs like these. The most I usually get away with is like a 40-watt reptile bulb, and that's really only producing up to like 80, 82 degrees. So I would definitely recommend a tub for breeders such as myself when you're needing a lot of enclosures for your animals, but really want to keep that price margin a little on the low end. And if anyone that needs a tropical species, such as like the Brazilian rainbow boas, ball pythons, and crested geckos, and you're having trouble getting that humidity up in, say, a glass enclosure, I would definitely recommend a tub at first, just so you can get a little bit of a handle on husbandry needs. Now, we went over some cool enclosures like the glass enclosures, bins, and Exo Terras, but there's still a few more. However, those are going to be in my other building, so we're going to head there right now. And here we are inside the other building, where our next enclosure we're going to be talking about is the grow tent. Now, yes, I keep reptiles in grow tents. You guys probably already know I've made a few videos about it, but my God, do people hate grow tents. Now, I said people don't like tubs, but people hate grow tents. There's pretty much like a back and forth between there's tub people and then people that don't like the tubs, but with grow tents, like pretty much the majority of the hobby is just anti-grow tent, and it sucks because, I mean, these things are awesome. I have quite a few, ones for my mountain horn lizards, my tegu, and then my quince monitor right here. They all work great. They hold heat great, they hold humidity great. I've had no problems with, you know, people are like, oh, the sides are flimsy, you know, they're gonna like break right through it. No breakouts, you know, it's been like a year or 2 years with using these things, zero issues. But with that rant aside, let's talk about the pros of a grow tent. Now, grow tents come in a multitude of different sizes, starting with something as small as like a 3 by 2 by 3 and getting as large as like a 20 by 16 by 16. They can go really big or pretty small. Of course, if you're thinking about getting a grow tent, one of the biggest Now, of course, if you're looking into getting a grow tent, one of the biggest incentives is the price. They are a fraction of a cost if you're using a grow tent versus, say, trying to build a wooden enclosure. Some other great things, you know, they really do anything any other enclosure can do, as I mentioned, you know, that holds heat great. It's an all-around pretty decent enclosure. We talked about those pros, now let's get into the cons. Number one, just like tubs, these things are horrendous to look at. I mean, I just have two big black blobs. It would look way better if I had some custom, you know, wooden or PVC enclosures, but my wallet would look a little bit more empty if that was the case. And of course, one of the biggest cons, and for a reason why a lot of people opt not to use this type of setup, is going to be visibility. Now, there really only is just one small little, I want to say it's like a 10 by 10 window that you can see out of. So, you know, if you want to have like a display pet or things like that, these probably aren't the enclosure for you. However, personally, I think they work great for things, like I said, tegus and monitors, because they're going to feel a lot more secure in having those 3 sides, almost 4 sides, closed in and not able to see out of. And then lastly, I recommend grow tents for people that are wanting to house larger animals such as, again, I'm going to say it one more time, tegus and monitors, but they don't really have the knowledge or the materials available to build themselves a custom wooden viv. And then the last enclosure we are going to be bringing up today is, of course, going to be the PVC enclosure. PVC enclosure pretty much checks off all the pros that I've had for any of the enclosure. You know, it looks great, just beautiful with the sleek black look. It has those 3 sides so the animal is going to feel secure. Front glass opening so I can clean it off, although you can already tell that I've been a little lazy and have not cleaned it off right now. So really beautiful display enclosure. You can house large reptiles in it. They come in a great bit of sizes, but there is one con to these guys. I guess 2 cons now that I'm thinking about it. Number 1, these are expensive. This is the most expensive enclosure that I have in my collection. I think I bought this one and the other AP cage that I have from my bearded dragon for, I want to say it all in all came out to $1,200. It was very expensive. I got them from, like I said, AP cages, and the shipping was a little bit, they tacked on, that was a few $100s in itself, but these, of course, I think they were $400 or $500 and they were on sale. And the last one is they are heavy and bulky. These weigh quite a bit. It is a huge pain when as you guys know, I moved this from my reptile room over into this building. It was a colossal pain in the ass. I actually didn't take it apart. We just flipped it on it. So like this flipped up and carried it that way, obviously removing the glass, but it took, I think, 2 or 3 people and it was not a fun day. The pro for these cages is they are somewhat stackable. Now, I do say somewhat because I've seen a bunch of people have success, you know, they build them up into walls. It looks just beautiful. Do not do that if you are doing bioactive. See, I did that with this cage and I had my bearded dragon up top and it kind of bowed the tank. Wasn't really fun, but like I've said, you know, that was just my personal experience. I messed up and didn't really look into it further enough. The added weight, because I mean, that's like 2 feet of soil, really wasn't the best for stacking, but as far as other people go, I've seen people have great experience with building like just walls of these things. And then lastly, I recommend a PVC enclosure for people that have a little bit more money to spend. They want their reptile room looking just beautiful and just having a nice quality made, great looking enclosure. Guys, that's going to wrap up the video for today. As always, if you like the video, please feel free to give us a thumbs up. If you want to see some more of my animals like this Mexican black king snake or my breeding products, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at DBCB Exotics. And other than that, thank you for watching and I hope you have a great day.